Hi, and welcome to my Art of Pie Wars talk. A couple of years ago, you may remember the previous one. This is the cool rebooted version, where I quote Sun Tzu. As a quick introduction, I'm Amy. I've been participating in Pie Wars since 2014. Originally, I was part of the Ipswich Makerspace team, but since then, I formed my own team with Charlotte and my dad. Our has consistently won prizes for artistic merit, and the community has opened up lots of opportunities for me, such as being commissioned by Mozilla. So I thought I'd go over my art for each of the Pie Wars graphics this year. How I made the feeding the fish graphics. So first off, I picked a reference image I really liked and translated that just to get the idea of, how the fish knew. Not to, copy it exactly, but to get the idea of how it would look in the end. Because, fish are hard to draw. What is a fish? And then since I was digitally painting, I wasn't going to be using this as lineup. This is like a general guide for where everything should be, especially the scales. Scales are really hard to freehand, and I wanted it to look detailed. And then I blocked in the colours. This was, just to get an idea, add form, get an understanding of what colour everything would be. Kind of lighting, but I'll be adding more in-depth lighting later. Then I added more detail. I'm really happy with how I ended up rendering this. I decided I was going to have a kind of middle left lighting, and I also added the water, which was really fun to render. Splish splosh. As well as, the shines in the eyes and on the fins and the scales. Then I futzed around with the colour because I'm allergic to desaturation, and just to make it pop, make it look nice, because I use that as a crutch. And also, who doesn't love bright, vibrant water and fish? Then I added the background and rendered it a bit more, I guess. There's not really much to say here other than I added more of a lighter area in the middle because that's where my light source was. Then I added a secondary light source of shading, basically just spray canned on some more colour there, so it just to make it more unified. I've added some purple near both the water and the fish as a more less drastic shadow, just to soften it a little. And that's how I made the fish graphic. So this was my process for the DIY obstacle course graphic. I spent a lot of time looking for reference with my dad. Here's just me trying to, get the perspective of this, which I don't end up using, but perspective is hard, man. I could have just done a vanishing point, but I kind of wanted to trace firsthand, which I, didn't end up using, but could have been useful. Here's me drawing tires. In the end, I decided to use thicker things, because, this is just me blocking out the ideas. I didn't need as detailed of a sketch as I did for the fish, the feed the fish graphic. I decided to do a curved thing for the tire, just kind of implying that there was more before that, because you wouldn't just start off with a curve. I do have thought process behind my art sometimes. Here's me trying to figure out the angles of the last one. It wasn't very good. I am very good at line art. Still blocking in the shapes, and I decided that I was going to have a similar background to the up the garden path, so I started drawing some clouds. I really like drawing clouds, if you can't tell. Here's my path. The ground. Still trying to figure out the perspective of everything. I lower the opacity and start working on line art, which I eventually decide probably isn't worth it since these are just going to be solid fill tyres, but you know, the thought was there. You can see the exact moment my dad kindly points out to me that the indents on tyres are vertical, not horizontal. Yeah, there it is. And I decide against line art in the end because it's a massive drawing. I should just, you know, get started with blocking in colours. And in the beginning, I'm very light tyres, but that's not exactly realism, is it? Adding the inside of the tyres. Messed around with some rim highlights and decided that, you know, the lighting was more of an overall thing. There wasn't anything directly shining on them. Really good piece of design here. In the beginning it was kind of all mushed together, a solid gradient. You don't really want to do that. That doesn't make for very appealing art. You want to have an area of light and an area of dark, and then like a little bit of, as a general rule obviously, but and then kind of shade between them. You know, all about clarity. Me duplicating and rotating tyres, because I can't be bothered to draw multiple things. Yeah, look at that. Tyres. There's me just futzing around with the tyres. Ah yes, there it is. There's the mesh transformation. It's how you... basically a way of like reorientating things, so you know, if you've messed up perspective, you can just, you know, really quickly change it, which I find very useful. I should have really, looking back on it, I should have really done the inside of the tyre on the top side, but I can change that now. It's me adding more obstacles. Doing some very quick shading, which ended up really good. I've been practicing backgrounds this year and it's kind of paid off, I think. Here's me having no idea how to draw the little climbing frames I've done in perspective, but it's fine. This was supposed to be based off like a military training assault course. If it wasn't obvious, which it probably wasn't, but you know, that's what we were taking inspiration for. Our obstacle course definitely isn't going to look anything like, you know, because how would our robot go through tyres? Not very easily. There's me putting my layer in the wrong place and having to redo the path. In the end, I decide to have a darker path for more contrast, because I ended up changing it to black and white to check there was enough, because I suspected there wasn't enough, you know, tonal variation, because even if the colours are vastly different, things can get lost and it doesn't make for a very effective piece of art if you've just got all of the same kind of tones. Here's me adding in the grass. I couldn't really decide on what kind of colours to use, but you know, just a lot of blending stuff in. I've kind of had the obstacles kind of sticking into the mud. Just me rendering out the mud because it was kind of just like a flat path before. To be honest, I could have definitely rendered it out more, but you know, it's work. And here's me finally realizing that the climbing frame is definitely off. Well, it's not really a climbing frame, it's like a ladder, isn't it? Yeah. And it's still, look at it's wonky! It's a wonky ladder! Change the ladder! I do change the ladder in the end, don't worry. Where's it going? It's waving to the left! So I go in and add the grass on the other side. And there's my tree. Yes. I'm actually really happy with how I ended up rendering the tree. I think it looks pretty good. It's simple, but I think it's quite effective. Yeah. Also wiggly. Oh, you'll see throughout these that I flip the canvas a lot. It's a really good optical trick that my dad found pretty neat. A lot of artists do it, so I didn't invent it or anything. But if you flip, your eye can get used to seeing an image one way and not spot a lot of the little differences if you've been working at something for hours. So it's, you know, often really good to just flip the canvas, because then you can check. You know, because then you're kind of seeing it with new eyes. Not exactly, obviously, the best cure for that is to just go away and come back in an hour. But it's, you know, really good quick flip. So you'll see me flipping the canvas a lot in these. Here's me finally realizing the colours, there isn't that much contrast, so deciding what I want to darken and what I want to lighten. Yeah, you can see the automatic colour isn't actually black and white, it's white and blue. There's me using a lot of different colour settings. In the end, I just kind of made it a little bit more saturated. But I think it turned out pretty good. And now it's cloud time! Yeah, let's go! There's me blocking in the solid white for the clouds, and just adding a lot of colours. Because that you can get away with a lot on a completely white cloud. Because all of the colours reflecting up onto it are going to be there. It's a good way of making your clouds look like they're glowing, almost, if you just add a lot of colours. I do struggle for a bit, trying to figure out how to make them look good, but in the end I think they look pretty cool. Some pretty cool clouds. I do end up changing the colour settings yet again after this. Reorienting everything. Where'd the tree go? Where'd the tree go, Yam? And there's me futzing around with the background sky again, because it had a little bit more contrast, you know. In the end, I didn't like it. I liked the really light sky. But it's important to play around with your options. A lot of my process is thumbnailing and trying to figure out what my options are. Ah, yes. There's the finished product. I just turned the saturation up a little bit at the end there. That was my process for making the art for the obstacle course. So here you can see me getting up my reference image. I wanted like an old style teddy bear, and here's me getting the basic shape. I tried to exaggerate him, make his tummy a little big, you know, the friendly bean shape. There's me not knowing what to do with the arms. Trying to figure out what to do here. In the end, I settled on something I liked. I wanted to make his body a little bigger. Proportions are important in character design, especially, you know, trying to make something trying to make something that looks friendly. Here's me doing, you know, a little bow, you know, like you see on some old style teddy bears. Here's me doing a little bow, finishing that off. Add little paw prints. It's important to figure out where everything begins and ends in a sketch, just for clarity, because that's what a sketch is in digital painting, making sure everything's clear. And here I'm going in underneath with a layer of colour, clearing it up to make sure my clipping layer is accurate and I don't have anything going over the edge. And now here's me deciding on the colours and values I want to use. In the end, I decided on going a very simple, like, warm versus cool, because I'm the sucker for warm colours. And there's me deciding if I want. In the end, I just decided it was you know, have like a unified colour palette. I couldn't find anything that looked good for that. I'm a coward. And then I combined the line art with the bottom layer, so I could just blend it together. that was, you know, the quickest way of doing anything like that. So me adding highlights, some nice warm highlights. It's a big misconception that you always want to do highlights with white and shadows with black. That can look good if it's you know, a lot of traditional comic books do stuff like that, but in most cases, benefit from doing the opposite. Well, not doing the opposite, but, you know, more hues the better. And then I decided it was looking very samey, so I added some blue. He's got a little blue ribbon, look at him. I was gonna do red originally, but the colour palette was too warm already. I had to resist. Little eyebrows there. Here's me adding some shadows. In the end, I decided to do a secondary light source, because it makes the drawing look more complicated than it is. Here's me futzing with the colours a bit more. You know, one of the most one of the things that I do that makes me the happiest is just adding other colours there, just for no reason at all. Just adding some more detail. Yeah, I do switch up how the light, because I get it wrong lots of times, but in the end I get it good. Yeah, there's the secondary light source. I'm so complicated. Yeah, so just adding a slightly, so the first light source is kind of like a top down from the left, and the second one is like from the right. Oh wait, no, I got that right. I don't know my left and right. Here's me futzing with the colours even more because I use that as a crutch. In the end, I don't really change much. Try and strengthen that because I realised it wasn't very obvious, the secondary light source, and I wanted to make sure everyone knew about my fancy colouring abilities. That's me. And I realised the feet weren't very clear. Where they began and ended. Here's me adding some highlights. You know, I changed that up a lot over my drawing process, but I think I got it. I think I got it all right in the end. You may have noticed I've added little blue highlights in the eyes. In the end, I changed up the lineup because it was all red originally, but that didn't really fit with the lighting. The majority of the process for this was just figuring out the lighting, because, you know, it's a good way to make a boring drawing interesting. You know, change the position of the bear. Very simple background. You may notice I like blue backgrounds, because all of my drawings are very warm. So it's good to have contrast. And also, you know, I was kind of thinking about unity. I left some transparent areas, so I just added a quick white fill in the background and, you know, destroyed the stragglers on the end. And, you know, just adding some spray painting on some more colours, more hue variation, and that's it. That's my drawing for the toy. Tidy up the toys thing. Here was my process for the up the garden path graphic. This one starts midway through, but you can see me, you didn't miss much, it was just me rendering clouds and grass. A lot of failed attempts on this one, but you know, it ended up good. Here's me adding the paving stones, and failing a lot of times because I didn't know how to draw them in perspective. You know, they should be bigger at the beginning. Amy. Tonal variation. Literally no reason. I just add more colours because it looks good. Me adding highlights to the stones before going on to more. And Kat was on my stream and suggested I should add grass in between the cracks. Mostly a lot of the same thing on this one, to be honest. It's me rendering paving stones, but it's a good chance to talk about all of the techniques I use to render them. in the end, I go in and add a warmer tone towards this, so I tried not to get too much into the lighting on this part, because I'd go in and fix that later. It's easier to think of only one thing at once, only paving stones, but that also means it's very easy to get distracted. I did take a lot of inspiration from, I looked up the garden path. Literally just copied the name of the challenge into Google, and I saw lots of picturesque, cottagecore images of, garden paths with, the ye olde paving stones. Very, very messy cobbled paths. So I took a lot of inspiration from that. It does kind of look like the one I made for my Animal Crossing island, but that's just unconscious inspiration, or subconscious inspiration, I'm sure. And here's me. I think the use of lots of different colours surrounding them, and ergo different coloured paving stones, was accidental, but I do think it ended up looking pretty good, because, the tonal variation. It's a bit of a buzzword for me. And there's me failing at doing lighting, because it ended up like bright yellow, and there's me futzing around with the colour, which I use as a crutch, but it ended up looking pretty good. Let's be just going in and adding more shadows, because, some of the areas are way too dark or way too light, so... I do change the path again. I'm really not happy with the way this path looks at this point, but, I had a lot of struggle with the grass too. Eventually I looked up a reference from Ghibli, but it took me a while to get to that point. I do love the way Ghibli renders grass, so I bring that up in stream, and they're like, Amy, you should go and look up some Ghibli reference then, and I'm like, that's a good point. So there's me doing my Ghibli reference, adding loads of just lines, but it looks good. They do add some, like the two clustered the pieces of grass together, so don't worry, I do change that. Yeah. I could have gone in and spent more time making sure this grass looked perfect, but I had a lot of these to do, so in the end I just settled for this, which I think still looks pretty good. Because grass is hard, man, and it's gonna be a pretty small pixels on the screen. There's me adding some flowers, because I asked if I should add flowers, and they were like, yes. And there's me futzing around with the path again. I really like how that looked, so I tried to do it to all of it. That was a bad idea. The light is coming from the sky onto the path, and you've already done it for the grass. You don't need to do it for anything else. And there's me futzing around with the colours again. I went with a more cyan, like a cooler look for the path, and that's it. There it is rendered. That was my graphic for Up the Garden Path.